want to make sure. Sometimes I get a little feedback when I start this and have to mute something. Okay, so we are now live on YouTube. And I'd like to welcome you all to the joint meeting of the Creve Coeur and Maryland Heights Township Democratic Clubs. I'm Harvey Ferdman. I'm president of the Maryland Heights Club. And we have with us Florence Pullen, who is president of the Creve Coeur Democratic Club. And we have a number of folks who are office holders and representatives who we will introduce in a moment, but let's kick off our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like to call on Florence to lead us in the pledge. And I will share my screen here. There we go. And Florence, if you would, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let's join in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go. Now I'd like to ask folks who hold office, if you would introduce yourselves and tell us the office that you hold, and if you're seeking office, also if you would introduce yourself and mention that. And I see Representative Paula Brown. Why don't you kick this off?
Hi, everyone. State Representative Paula Brown, representing the 70th District, which includes Hazelwood, Bridgeton, Maryland Heights, Creve Coeur, Chesterfield, and St. Charles County.
Fantastic. And Ms. Gumby?
Hi, everybody. Trish Gunby, State Representative in the 99th District, which includes Manchester, Twin Oaks, Valley Park, and unincorporated St. Louis County. And I am also a candidate for the 2nd Congressional District going up against Ann Wagner.
Welcome, and thank you for your efforts. It's great. Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Representative Clemens.
Hi, State Representative Doug Clemens, 72nd District. That's St. Anne, Bridgeton, Breckenridge Hills, Overland, Maryland Heights, and quite a bit of unincorporated St. Louis County.
Excellent. And Representative McCreary?
Hi, everybody. I'm State Representative Tracy McCreary. I'm a super senior in the Missouri House, so I am heading into year 9 in the Missouri House. I represent parts of Olivet, Ladue, Creve Coeur, Town and Country, Chesterfield, and some incorporated as well. And I am running for the Missouri State Senate for Jill Shoup's spot. Jill has been termed out, and I'm running for Jill's spot and have her full support. Thank you.
Thank you, and best there. Councilwoman Greer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Councilwoman Nicole Greer and from the city of Creve Coeur, and I represent Ward 2. I am already up for re-election in April of 2022. So I am in the signature gathering phase. I will need 50 signatures to get on the ballot in April. And so if you or you know anyone that lives in Ward 2 in Creve Coeur, please send them my way, or I will go their way if you tell me who they are. Thanks.
Thank you. And County Councilwoman Rita Days. You're muted at the moment. Oh, that's right. She's not available.
She's at a meeting. Yes, she's at a meeting.
She's going to be joining us a little later. That's fine. Dave and Dale Steinberg. They are muted. We'll see if they come on. They are the township committee people for Maryland Heights. Is there anyone else who holds an elected position or running for office who I have not introduced? Please. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, hey, this is Alex Davinsky running for House District 88 to fill Representative McCreary's big shoes.
Oh, fantastic. Anyone else? And just a word to everyone, I know you've heard of Emily's List. I know a lot of folks are running fundraisers right now. Just a quick quiz. Does anyone know what Emily stands for and why that's important in elections? Ms. McCrary.
Early money is like yeast.
That's right. Early money is like yeast. So folks, if you are inclined to donate to any of these folks running for office, the sooner the better. Okay. With that, we'll kick off our program for this evening, which is basically somewhat of an open format chat with our representatives, and also with the infrastructure bill being signed. We're curious, it would be nice to hear if anyone has any information about how much of that money will come to Missouri, how it will be decided, where it will go, or if you know how it will be used, or what that process looks like. It would be great to have a discussion about that. If anyone wants to volunteer to kind of kick that topic off. Silence is deafening.
Well, hey, Harvey, what the heck? I love to talk, you know that. So today was a historic day. The signing of the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill is going to mean vast change for the United States of America, and we're hoping for Missouri. Missouri is 200 years old, and Missouri has always been, up until very recent history, one of the cutting edge states in terms of transportation technology. We range everything from agriculture and cattle to the industrial military complex. We have it all here. We had two of the giant engines for the entire nation in St. Louis and Kansas City. And as a result, as we grew as a state, we have everything here. Some of the first airports, rail systems, ports, river systems, you name it. So this infrastructure bill really needs to be applied in Missouri because we've kind of missed the boat on the last 3 decades of infrastructure spending that we should have been making here. There is a long laundry list of things. I want to touch on a little bit, and I know that some of my compatriots there are going to touch on some other things, but I just want to say roads and bridges is one of the critical things in the state of Missouri. We just passed a fuel tax last session that'll go up to 12.5 cents a gallon right now. It's just an introductory rate. It grows up to that over 5 years. With that tax in place, we still do not have the money that we need to do all of the necessary pieces of our infrastructure in terms of roads and bridges. Missouri is the 4th in terms of miles of roads in any state in the union. That means that we have close to 300,000 miles of roads across the state of Missouri. And we've got 45,000 bridges that most people probably don't even realize they're driving over on the way to work. It's one thing when we talk about bridges crossing the Mississippi River or the Missouri River or the Merrimack, but you probably cross 30 or 40 bridges driving down most 4-lane roads and don't even realize it because we have so many creeks and washes throughout the state of Missouri. So a number of those are in disrepair. Now, the state bridges we're working on, particularly in rural areas, because those are critical to move emergency vehicles, get supplies in, you name it. Sometimes it's one bridge on a 2-lane road that is everything for a community. So those have to be a priority for us. But all these little municipal bridges are at risk right now, and hopefully we'll be able to see this money spread out through the state, through counties and municipalities to take care of that stuff too. We've got basically $110 billion set aside for road and bridge construction in this package. That's a chunk of change. 40 billion of that is set up for just bridges. And then because we're trying to do some extra special, unique things to increase traffic, to make communities safer, to increase pedestrian crossing, mass transit, that sort of thing, we're setting aside 16 billion for special projects that are brand new, that there's never been a funding source for in the history of the country. One of the other things I wanted to touch on is the state of Missouri has 31 active Superfund sites that are on the national priority list. I think this particular group of folks is familiar with a couple of those Superfund sites, but in general, we lag behind in brownfield cleanup and Superfund cleanup. There are sites that have sat for decades and decades and decades, and the longer those sites sit, the more harm they cause, not only to the health of the people that live around them, but to the local economy. Nobody's able to build there. Nobody's able to start up something new. And this giant infrastructure piece that we used to have is now sitting in decay and is poisonous to the community. So they've set aside a giant amount of money for basically clean up of brownfields and environmental impact. So along with that, I'm trying to look for what the amount of money was on that. And for some reason, I don't have it written down. So I'm going to go to my trusty little cheat sheet here.
While you're looking, Doug,
$21 billion for Superfund sites to move along. But that's what I wanted to touch on. But there is a long laundry list of things to touch on that I'm going to let some other folks pick up on, and we'll talk in greater detail about all this stuff.
thank you. Councilwoman and Chair of the County Council, Rita Days has joined us. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
The,
Sorry, I'm a little late, but I had another committee and I just punched a button and now I don't know. Can you see me?
yes, yes.
Okay, well, I'll just talk like you can, but that was a good introduction there. But my understanding in today's information I got was that Missouri will get 6.5 billion, B with a B, $1 billion of this infrastructure money. And so when you're talking about, Doug, the landfills and the environmental issues, I have 3 of those. Well, Bridgeton is not in my district, but Wilson and Kinloch have been plagued with the environmental toxins that have been in the soil for years and years and years. And so this will go a long way in handling some of that kind of issue. And I don't think there's ever been any kind of let's just say program to this extent that will deal with that. Yeah, we had some brownfields and we had some cleanup and super funds, but it really didn't go as far as I think this particular legislation could go. The other thing that I wanted to really talk about was that it's opportunity for Metro to have another leg of Metro going north and south as part of this infrastructure bill, which will again help citizens, particularly in the 1st and the 4th, get to jobs and other opportunities that they have to help their families. So that really is a good opportunity for us. Although most people think that it just deals with roads and bridges, that really is it's an all-encompassing bill because it also goes into manufacturing, solar panels, other environmental issues that we're dealing with, and trying to save our planet, if you will. And the global warming is running amok, and so some of these kinds of things I think will help that as we go forward. So the last thing I want to say is that we did not realize how important broadband was until we had the pandemic, and we had so many people, particularly children and families, who did not have the broadband infrastructure that they needed in order for the children to continue to go to school. And so that's going to be part of this if we do that. But from the county's perspective, it's really important that we leverage what we're going to get with some of what the state's going to do. If we can pool some of those resources together, I think they will go a lot farther. So that's about what I have to say about that. I'm going to look at some other issues. It is really, I will just say, it is really, really early in this process, even though he just signed the bill. This bill is hundreds and hundreds of pages. And so we have to have the federal regulations that go along with this in order to make all this happen. So that has not happened yet. And until that does happen, we don't know exactly what we will be able to do. But these are some of the things that when the bill was being put together, these were some of the things that they thought would be helpful in that area. So I'm pleased to be here. I want to thank Florence for inviting me to this. I've had a very long day here. I just finished with a tour of the courts, which is why I was running a little late, but it was all important and it was very important for me to be there. So I do appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And also I wish to mention, I did invite our county council rep who covers most of our townships, and it's her birthday, so she's unavailable. That would be Kelly Dunaway. I also invited Jill Shoup, and about this time she's on an airplane going somewhere. So they both send their regrets. I tried to invite all of our legislators, you know, to have local context. Thank you, Rita. That was a great summary. Does anyone else wish to talk to the infrastructure bill before we open it up for questions?
If I could just go, since Chair Rita Days talked, I think she really opened a good window for us to talk about how we can really have synergy. And we're going to be able to use county money, state money, and this federal money to really have a big impact on all kinds of things. And, you know, today is one of those days where we could be having this meeting with our fellow folks that are meeting with Republican clubs tonight, because today what I saw on the lawn of the White House is that we saw people from both parties there celebrating this. And, you know, these things don't happen very often. So, you know, I think our lives are going to change for the better, but I also think that a lot of people, including people on this Zoom call tonight, are really frustrated when elected officials can't work together and get things done. And I think what happened today is an example of people, elected officials, citizens being able to take a deep breath and get things done. So it was really, really hopeful for me. One of the things that I work on in the legislature, so I serve on the Utilities Committee, as does, well, actually, interestingly, both Representative Gunby and Representative Paula Brown have been on Utilities with me. One of the things that's really important to us is making sure that Missourians have access to broadband. So, and, you know, if you just surveyed a bunch of people, they would say that broadband access is just lack of access is just a rural issue. But the reality is we have a lot of people that live just a few miles from all of us that really don't have access to high speed intranet. And that's critical. The speed is what's so important, because you need to be able to upload and download things very quickly in order to participate in school, in order to be able to work from home, and in order to be able to have telemedicine visits and that kind of thing. So this bill has tens of billions of dollars for broadband expansion. And it doesn't just mean expanding into rural areas, which is important. It also means making sure that folks that are our neighbors right here in the St. Louis region will be able to have access to the broadband that they need in order to live and work and be successful in this region. So that's a big deal as well. And again, these are not things, we're not going to see these things happen overnight, but I think that's okay. All of us want this money to be spent wisely, and we want things to go through a proper process. So, you know, like the chair, County Council Chair Day said, you know, it's okay that we take a breath and make sure that all the proper channels are being followed on this, because we want to make sure that taxpayer money is used wisely. And that's what we're going to see the next step be.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Another thing that we're really working on with this bill is the lead abatement in water. We're really starting off, and there's several of us working on it, and we think we're going to get some bipartisanship as we work through the legislative process this year to try to get filters in schools. We're not sure what the cost of replacing all the pipes would be. Missouri schools are older, and we don't always, we have a tendency to upgrade the schools, but not necessarily the internal infrastructure. So we do know that several schools have tested positive for lead in their water. We are looking at a filtration system. We will start in the poorest of areas and move up. And this will certainly be a project that we work with the municipality, the state, and the federal budget monies. We do know that this is important for the health of the kids and the kiddo and their parents. So that's a big thing that we will be working on as this process rolls out.
I'm sorry, you may have seen my reaction. I'm a little bit shocked to hear that there's lead in the water in our schools and it's not fixed. But
Oh, yeah.
that's pretty bad.
Well, I will say that, we could be looking at a Flint, Michigan here, where they had significant challenges with the water system, citywide. And, we aren't there yet. But I think that because of the age of our infrastructure, and like the representative said, no one even looks at that. You put a nice building and you fix that up, but no one ever looks at the internal workings of all of that until something happens. And so clearly we don't want anything to happen. We don't want any lead poisoning in our children or whatever contaminants there may be. Even the piping system, if you had lead pipes or whatever, now people are using PVC, but those others were porous. And so anything could get through those pipes. And I think it's important that we make sure that, for the sake of just not the children, but the community as a whole, we would devote some funds to that. So I appreciate that one.
Well, and I am glad we're having this meeting tonight because sometimes I think for people that aren't political insiders or junkies like most of us on this call tonight, you think that everything happens in these silos. But the reality is that school boards, city councils, county councils, state and federal, we're all trying to figure out a way to work together on this. So a great example of that is, we know that we have problems with lead in the school water. And that means it's the water that the kids are drinking, but it's also what's coming out of the cafeteria and what we see, because you have to cook food and that kind of thing. So so ultimately, the long-term goal is that we replace the drinking water to the schools, but that takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just change a pipe of environmental groups and Jeanette Mott Oxford. What we're trying to do is find some short of these schools so that drinking water and cooking water is clean until we can get the pipes replaced. So, it's a complex balance of having long-term goals, but also I don't want to wait another 2, 3, 5, 10 years. We have to help these kids now.
Right. And it's not just elected groups.
Yeah, we know that affects the brain. And so, that's just unacceptable to have to wait that long. So.
Does anyone know if there's been an inventory of residential lead pipes? Do we have a lot of that going on in this area?
We do the age of the region. Yes.
I just want to add and have everybody be mindful that while there were some Republicans who were, present during the signing, the vast majority are not around. And Ann Wagner tweeted about abortion today. So be mindful that for many, this historic piece of legislation is, we're not hearing anything from them. And as the jobs come in and we see things in a positive light happen, just be mindful that they're silent and not supportive.
Does anyone else want to comment on the bill before we go to questions on it?
I did want to just tack onto that, Harvey, real quick and say I watch Fox News to see what they're up to. And while Pete Buttigieg was on MSNBC talking about the details of the infrastructure bill, they were talking about the satanic influence that caused the stampede at the concert last week.
Oh, good grief. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Affirmative.
Well, you got to kind of talk about what you know. You really can't talk about anything positive because you don't know anything positive. So, it's par for the course, if you will. Well, I don't know why y'all be surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Rita, one of the questions that I asked at the beginning when I asked everyone to comment on the bill is, if anyone knows how the money is actually going to be decided or allocated, what that process is. Does the county get a chunk? Does the state decide where it goes? Do you have any insights on that?
And I do not, and my information was that just at this particular point, the 6.5 billion is going to be going to the state, and how it's distributed from that has not been determined yet. We don't even know if municipalities will get some like ARPA. Municipalities will get their allocation by itself, unlike CARES. CARES money for municipalities came through St. Louis County. But this ARPA money will not. They'll get direct expenditures, but it has not been decided yet on this infrastructure bill.
Okay. I've jotted down a few questions, but before I get to mine, does anyone have any questions for the panel at this time about the bill?
Well, Harvey, just real quick, as Retta said earlier, I think it's very important to remember that none of the federal regulations have been authored yet that will tell us exactly how this program is going to work. So we're kind of still in the dark on the details.
Okay.
And we haven't really received concrete information on ARPA yet. So we are a little ways off on that. ARPA's regulations are changing every day. And so we're a bit ways out when it comes to this infrastructure bill.
Okay, thank you. One of the questions that I had is, I guess for Rita, you mentioned Metro North-South addition, which I think would be a fantastic thing. I know transportation in the North County area is missing, to say the least. What is there anything we can do at this point to advocate for that to happen, or at least when you do know there's something, will you let us know, and I'll circulate that around, because I think that's
yeah, I absolutely will do that. And my sense is that this will come before the East-West Gateway board in terms of how that how that does. Usually, all of the kinds of grants and stuff like that, transportation issues, they come through East-West Gateway. And so, I would start advocating at this particular point, because I know that they're talking about that. So I would start advocating now, sending it to, oh God, what is his name? Wild. I can't think of his first name, but he's executive director, and making sure that folks, you have your idea and your support behind an expansion of Metro.
Are members of the East-West Gateway, are they elected, appointed? How do folks get in a position of power there?
They're appointed. I am on that, and I was appointed by the county executive. So I'm pretty sure most of them are appointed. We have some from the east side, Fairview Heights and that area. And then we have some folks from St. Charles. Well, they're probably not going to advocate for a light rail system, but we want it in St. Louis County going north and south, okay? So I think that would be helpful if you could, advocate for that at this level, even start now.
Thank you. Again, if anyone has any questions, just interrupt me, but I have a question for Representative Clemens. You mentioned that there was a gas tax hike that was approved that's in place now for road improvements. Was there any discussion or facilities to tax electric vehicles?
No, not yet. That is actually one of those things, new technology missing in our scope, how to deal with it on a financial level. There's discussion growing all the time about it, whether we hit them on an annual tax rate when they renew their license, that sort of thing, to make up for the lack of fuel tax being paid. But this fuel tax, to be clear, if you're a Missouri resident, this fuel tax is actually refundable to you.
Mm-hmm.
Wind up paying it, you can go onto the Department of Revenue site, fill out the form, and get a refund for those taxes that you paid. Because what we're really trying to go after here is the cross-country transit that's going through the state, the big 18-wheelers that are doing the most damage to our roads. And we feel that maybe they should be paying for the damage it caused.
Oh, I thought it had to do with the Hancock Amendment that we never voted on the gas tax increase.
Well, the Hancock Amendment puts a cap on how high we can make an increase. So this falls below that cap. So it is not touched by the Hancock Amendment.
And yes, Councilwoman Greer, I am saving my receipts as I speak. I am, so.
I'm gonna help these roads because you'll never get me to save all those little gas receipts.
No. I'm a senior citizen and I need every penny I can get, okay? So I am saving my gas receipts.
There's no way.
They're counting on folks like you, see, to keep the money, but they won't keep
And they're
mine,
gonna get me
okay?
too. They're gonna get me because
Oh,
there's no
wow.
way.
Okay, are there any other questions about the infrastructure bill? Okay, with that, I'd like to just open it up to a general discussion. If anyone has any topic they'd like to, stump the panel with, now's a good time.
This isn't a stump the panel. This is I'm making a lot of calls every day, as you might imagine, along with others. And I will just say that as a party, we need to have messaging that is concise, effective, and that we are all in accordance with, because that has been a challenge. I think even people understanding what is a part of this bill, and then we have the Build Back Better portion that we're looking ahead to. So all of that's going to be critical, certainly next year, when many of us are running for office and having to explain why people should vote for Democrats. And so that's what I'm looking for personally, not only as an elected official now, but as a candidate, is to impress upon people the significance of what's happened and how for the next, decade, the impact and beyond that's going to have on individuals and who got that through. So just the idea of messaging and having voters connect the dots, I think that's a big piece of this.
Thank you. We have had on, I think at our last meeting or the one before, the folks who are doing Claim Your Power. They're doing a great job. If anyone's curious about seeing what kind of messaging Democrats can put out that are different than what we're used to seeing, check out Claim Your Power. I don't know if it's Claim Your Power Missouri or just Claim Your Power, but I'm sure you can find it if you Google that. Alan, I saw you light up your video. Are you asking a question?
No, I just came back from getting some water.
Okay.
Harvey, this is Dawn Banks regarding the messaging piece that Trish is talking about, that it's all very well and good that we have great groups like Claim Your Power and Indivisible and the League of Women Voters and the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition and all of these people that are coming up with great messaging. But as Trish said, if it's not coordinated, it's just noise. And that's something that I have seen. I've only been in the state for 7 years, and from day one, it's been, where's the messaging coming from? It's not coming from anywhere. And so I keep looking to the state party for messaging, and I'm not seeing anything there either. So I don't have an answer for that, but we have to do better than just noise.
Harvey, let me jump in real quick and say this would be the time to talk about the Democratic Legislative Network, which is actually the tool of the House Democratic Campaign Committee, the House Caucus. We have a Monday night meeting, which is taking place right now, unfortunately. So they're Monday night calls to talk about strategy for folks to get involved, including calling the governor, writing op-eds to the newspaper, talking to your neighbors and friends, a whole long things to do, and what subjects and presses we need to happen right now. And it also helps us copy and get out messaging so that this sense is actually what's being talked about at the gas station checkout.
Yes, I agree, and I attend those meetings every Monday night because I disseminate their message out to the St. Charles County newsletter and to the surrounding counties and the surrounding groups and across the state. But again, it's you get one message from them, and their message is largely really current events. And that's great. Current events is great, but in the long term, we still need some sort of long-term end game messaging.
I'd like to maybe talk to you a little bit further about that, Don, because
Sure.
I'm the decision makers as to how that all works. And you've got a point that I'd like to talk about with the staff. So grab me offline.
I'll put my email address in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
If we can go back to the infrastructure bill,
Yeah,
I'm just an ordinary citizen, John Reichman. My wife is a member of the committee, but the 911 system in the county and in the city are in terrible condition. There are plans being promulgated by both the county emergency management organization and the city, I understand, is doing things as well. I'm just wondering, does anybody on the panel know if there's additional funding going to be available, or if there's any plans underway to improve the 911 system so that when you call, you don't get put on hold as we were?
There is money in the infrastructure bill that was signed today for 911 call centers. It's $15 billion, but we're too early in the process to know like what that means for our region. So we'll have to, I wish I had a more specific answer, but do know that we'll know more as time goes on.
Yeah, the county is system is victimized by its multiple municipalities and fiefdoms that all control their various call centers. So we have something like 18 different call centers in the city, in the county, and as well as in the city. There's the call center, and it would make much more sense to have one central call center handling both emergency and fire calls. And in talking to people in the management of those centers, they agree, but they're stuck with every municipality wants to have their own control. Or
I think a lot of that has also to do with manpower of the system. Since we have had this pandemic, a lot of people are not willing to do that kind of work. But we are looking into putting some more money into that system, perhaps offering incentives for people to work there. But that has been a challenge with most things that we've dealt with the pandemic. And you see all the help wanted signs out, and we are no different. We are starving for people to come and work for St. Louis County. We're not the best paid, around, but we are really trying very, very hard to get bodies in these positions, trained bodies that can help with that. And I clearly understand that is a major challenge, because when you push 911, you want somebody to answer. You do not want to be put on hold. And I recall that, I think that was in the newspaper. I don't know if that was you, Mr. Reichman, but I remember the article in the newspaper, and I said, that's unacceptable. And so we are working to see if we can get bodies to do that kind of work.
Of course, if it were centralized, you would have more bodies handling everything, and it wouldn't be as more bodies, because there's a lot of downtime. So it would make more sense logistically to have a central center.
And it would not be as fragmented. I think I hear is what you're saying. And
exactly.
So I will have to look into that and see exactly what does the system do, how fragmented, how many of these folks have their own systems. I know Regis is one. I'm not sure of any others, but that's worth looking into. So I do appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Harvey, I wonder if anyone could give us an update on the organization of the party, of the Democratic Party in Missouri these days. Anybody?
In probably our next meeting, Alan Gerber.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
better.
Probably in our next meeting, Alan Gerber, who's the chair of CD2, is going to give us an update on what they're up to, and I can ask him to talk about the party, or maybe if you want, we can invite Chair Butler to give us an update. That's probably a reasonable thing to do.
Okay, but maybe we could also hear from like Paula and Doug or any, or Tracy, whoever's involved with in the legislature, if they're seeing anything coming out of the party, any leadership, any messaging or anything.
You might also check with Nelson Mitten. I think he's the new chair of the Central Committee. He might have some information for you along those lines as well.
But the issue is, how well is our state party interfacing with our state representatives and senators? They should be supporting them. What are they doing? That's a question.
I'll speak to that a little bit. We've formed a very strong caucus within the House of Representatives. We now employ staff year-round. And part of the reason we do this is because the Democratic Party on the state level rolls up its sidewalks after election season is over. And we're behind the ball. We actually need to work every year, not just election years.
Your hands are in the picture.
So we're continuing with polling, with door knocking, we're continuing with things like that on our own. Now, we are in tight communication with Missouri party leadership, and they are starting to hear the types of complaints that we have had as elected officials and the types of resources that we would need provided to us. Now, saying that they're starting to hear us, that means that the ball is starting to roll. It takes a long time to change a mechanism from something that was dissatisfactory for us to something that's going to work with us and gel better. We've got good people in place in general. We've had some nasty bumps along the line the last couple of years. And one of the problems that I see, my chief critique of the state party, is that they need to be staffed year-round 24/7, because we are behind the 8 ball and have to make up ground. And that's going to be done by working in off election years. So it's one of those things that's being taken to heart. Smaller elections is being taken to heart. The idea that you know what, if we've got a Democrat running for school board, we should probably get in there and support them, as opposed to saying, well, this is a nonpartisan election, we're not going to play. Because we all know that the other party's been playing in small elections for 30 years now. And we see what's happened with that. So ears are open, communications are happening, we're moving forward. That work?
Thank
You know,
you.
the other thing I would add, and Doug, you were in attendance with me. We went to the town hall that they hosted at the
Yes.
CWA hall. And I know that Michael Butler and others hosted those around the state. I think if you were to invite him to speak, I would ask him what the outcomes were of those meetings.
And he's supposed to be having more of those town hall meetings. I will say, and abruptly in public, that I was disappointed at the turnout. And I don't know where that fell out, because I'm not part of the Democratic Party on the state level setting up those events. I got an invite, I went to the event, but it was attended by about 20 people when I expected there'd be 50, 100. And so I'd like to see that come out as a stronger outreach to our people.
Well, and I think at that event, there were 3 people who were volunteers. Everybody else was an elected official or a staff person. So,
I was
and
gonna say,
we,
I don't remember notification of that one.
I,
so
I think it was
great.
mostly done on social media, as
Oh,
I recall, maybe on Facebook. So, and that would be a question, how were those meetings promoted? What was the attendance? What's the follow-up? I mean, all of that. And so I know the meeting we were at, I think over half the meeting was just about COVID.
What Facebook page would you have to look at to see these notices? Most people don't look at those.
I don't disagree.
The outreach is a problem there. And that's the thing, is that the attendance of that event was not good. And they need to do better outreach. I've got 2 committee people talking to me about the status of the party. And that says a world to me in and of itself.
in the meantime, I did put in the chat the link to sign up for the weekly newsletter that comes out of those Monday night meetings, as well as the Zoom link for the Monday night meetings. So those are in the chat. And they're also, if you look at the invitation from our meeting today, there's a click here down at the bottom to sign up for the weekly newsletter. And that's an action newsletter. It's a call this person and tell them this about that bill kind of newsletter. So it's a good thing.
So Dave and Dale and maybe some others, you said you didn't know where those were. Where do you want to go to get that information? Or how have you in the past gotten information like that?
Email.
Okay.
We have email lists for all of the clubs in St. Louis County. So the people who might be most interested.
Doesn't somebody have emails for Democrats in general?
Yeah, that too.
There must be a master list of every email of every Democratic donor somewhere.
Well, it's in van, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah,
right.
I would think.
I mean,
So
I've been out for a minute, but I thought we had the van.
yeah,
that
exactly.
Had the contact information for all the Democrats, and so if you're having a meeting in Southwest Missouri, you can, tailor your message to that. I don't know if they still do that or not, but that's how it used to happen.
The van probably isn't going to give you many emails that are coming from the state party's email list itself. The van has very limited amounts of emails. They have phone numbers, but very little emails. I think it would be a really good idea if I don't know if there's some sort of law against it, but like MDP's email list is huge. And if they just inputted that into van, that would be a huge deal for candidates down ballot. But I don't know if they can do that.
Interestingly enough, you did say they had phone numbers.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
The phone still works for most people.
Yeah.
Most people have a phone number. I really had to be careful about that when we were talking about this COVID, and you sign up on email and Facebook and that kind of thing, and that's fine if you have that technology and you have that level of knowledge to do that. But I found that with that they didn't, and so they lost a lot of information. A lot of people did not get information because it was strictly geared to social media.
But the van names are not guaranteed Democrats. I mean, we have a good idea that they're Democrats from their activity and that sort of thing, but they're not guaranteed Democrats in the van.
But I'm saying if you've donated to a Democrat, we've got your contact info.
Okay, well, that's
somewhere.
Donation information, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a list to start with, because to me, if you're giving money, then you're invested. Period. And those are people that you would want to be reaching out to, obviously to help is for candidates, but to help the party in general. And they need to be, a part of this discussion.
Okay, I'm taking away my smiling face because I got to put my phone on the charger.
I just have a comment about van. Even though it doesn't always tell us how people vote unless they reveal how they vote, a lot of those phone numbers are no longer in existence either. So, I think right now the best piece of information we could actually use are MEC reports, Because you can go on and look, and we have emails and some emails, and then, but we have phone numbers for all the people from the MEC reports. So, and I know that a lot of people can text as well. As far as that town hall meeting, Dale and David, we could have texted that out to every person because everybody has a cell phone. Most of us don't have anything but a cell phone. So we could certainly have reached out via text to say, hey, we're having this meeting. You can respond by yes or no to let them know you're coming. So I think that's something that we might share with the party as well.
Do we have any other commenters or questions or topics? Anyone else?
I will add with comments about messaging, this is something that we hear a lot, right? From us and from people who are on our teams and who are supporting our candidates and everything. One of the sources that I go to for messaging is Anat Shenker Osorio. I don't know who is familiar with her. She lives out in California, worked with, studied under George Lakoff for a while, and just is part of a group of people who, going into the 2020 election, really worked to get labor especially, but also a lot of people in the higher parts of the Democratic Party together. Like, we got to get rid of this Trump guy, right? And really brought some folks together around messaging. She's done, I think she helped with Medicaid expansion, either with Move or with Jobs with Justice. I think there was a loose connection there. Yes, I will, Don. And so she hosts, well, she and a couple of other people host a session every other Wednesday, just about messaging, and it jumps off of current events. So they'll talk about critical race theory. They'll talk about the Build Back Better plan. They'll talk about voting rights legislation in Congress. Sometimes they'll have senators on. Sometimes they'll have activists who are involved in different states, but they'll always couch things in the context of the messaging war that we're in, right? So you've got one group of people who are trying to split us apart, so that we don't realize how the wealthy and the powerful are making off with the goods, and they're pitting us against each other so they can get away with it, right? And just I found it to be really good stuff. So yeah, I dropped the name in the chat there, Anat Shenker Osorio. And I am happy to talk with anybody more about ways to connect with that call every other Wednesday. And some other resources that she's got a podcast out, and she's got a messaging guide that I really like. So yeah, I'm glad to talk with anybody about that. If anybody's curious about the nuts and bolts of the messaging for yourself or for your organizations, but it doesn't get into the questions of how do we do it as a state party or as large organizations here in Missouri or in the region.
That's the point. I mean, there should be, like even for the infrastructure passage, there should be something coming out of the party regarding the best, uniting us in how we talk about that. And, and especially also having taglines, having, something that grabs attention.
Yeah. There are toolkits that they put out. Anat and her group, not the party necessarily.
Well,
Yeah. with toolkits and GIFs and messages that you can get out and things like that.
But the point, how does the state party communicate with the general public? How do they do that? They don't. Okay, well,
I couldn't answer that for sure.
I think a lot of people have no idea there is a state party. It may be a myth.
Okay, well, well, hopefully not. I think maybe for our next meeting, we'll see if we can get someone from the state party and maybe Nelson and Alan Gerber and just kind of have a chat about with what's happening. I know that there's a couple of different strategic planning efforts in progress. I'm not sure where they are, so it might be interesting to see if we can get an update on some of that, but it does have to do with changing the focus and the structure of how we go to market, so to speak.
It's going to be as soon as I close this meeting, it'll be off.
I see Mr. Reichman has his hand
I
raised.
guess, speaking as an ordinary citizen, communicating individually, person to person, is becoming almost impossible. You certainly can't use the phone. I spent hours calling on phone banking, calling for Jill Shoup, and if I got 5% of the calls through, it was a lot. And I imagined texting is an alternative, but you'll be, excuse me, pissing off a lot of people who get charged by the minute rather than paying a flat rate if you start sending them texts. I don't know what the answer is, but talking to individuals, getting them to even come out and vote or volunteer is getting more and more difficult in today's environment, because I am bombarded daily with requests for money. If you get on that list, everybody from Maine to California is sending me requests for help, and I'd like to help them, but I can't. But so it's a really conundrum, and the party, unfortunately, the way that the way you can really reach people is the most expensive way, and that's TV. And people get upset with all that during the election season, and it can't be targeted. It's kind of general. So I don't know what the answer is, but it is something that the Democratic Party has to address as a whole, and in particular Missouri, which is in desperate need of some help. I'm willing to help, but I can't figure it out.
Yeah, I just want to put a plug in for the Monday night meetings. I know we meet on Mondays, but the other 3 Mondays of the month, I really strongly suggest that you folks at least try that out. If you look at I put the links in the chat. There's also a link at the bottom of our meeting announcement that you can click to get onto the newsletter, and I'm pretty sure the newsletter always has the link to get onto the Zoom meeting as well.
I remember that. We ignored that.
Yeah, it's a start in the right direction in terms of at least giving people that want to do things some directions. Yeah, the House Caucus team put that together, and it is very good. Thank you, Trish. Anyone else? Any comments, topics, suggestions? Future programs you might like to see? We have one we know from tonight's discussion.
Talking about winning.
Talking about winning.
I just want to add, I'm a fairly new elected official and obviously running again. But we don't make it easy for people to, and people have already said this, to find out about us and find out how to run. Got to call a lot of people to figure it out. and find out the names. I didn't even know there was such a thing as committee man and committee woman. Didn't know that existed. And I feel like we need to set an expectation for what that role is. I can't tell you the number of people I've called and have not called me back. And it's not just for money. So I feel like we have to create an expectation of what I would rather see a position go unfilled than filled with people who aren't doing their jobs. And obviously all this is volunteer. So, but there needs to be an expectation of what the job is. And if every individual who is on these monthly calls with in their own township, if they are not helping on somebody's campaign, they do not belong being a committee man or a committee woman. Period.
Trish, this is, let me just speak to that for a moment. Around, right before the elections or a few months before, we get bombarded with calls. We must get, 5-10 calls a day. And usually it's because the candidate wants money. By the way, they would like to talk also, but mainly it's because they want money.
And from all over the state, not just local.
Right. And and now it's from outstate in addition. So, that's why we haven't called back.
We did send money though.
Well, I mean, it's, here's what I'm telling people. We can't, as candidates, do it alone. And so if you're not helping us in some fashion, all of us talking to each other doesn't get people elected, period. So sign up to help somebody. And I'm telling people, money's great, but bodies are great too. And then bring 5 people with you. That is the way we win. And we've got to use those bodies to talk to people.
But you're willing to volunteer.
It's very simple what we have to do. And everybody wants to just write postcards. That's not going to win elections. So get out and talk to people and bring friends. And everybody who's involved in the party in some fashion needs to agree to work on a campaign, period, year round, or find candidates. That's part of your job.
I feel like. Let me tell you that we feel like we're too old to be doing that. And I can't find, I think David could find a replacement. I haven't been able to find a replacement. I would love to have a replacement and not be on the committee.
Well, and you know what, Dale, I think part of that too, I know committees that meet during the day when people are at work or different groups. Young people who are working during the day and can't meet during the day, we need to offer alternatives when meetings are. It's like anything. I think we're all in our own silos doing different things, or all the groups are. And one thing I think that the state committee could do for us is to offer opportunities to brainstorm ideas on how to obviously better ourselves. We're doing some of that right now, because we've got to involve younger people in this and get them in leadership positions. I mean, we've got, Sydney's on here with us right now. And that's, we need more Sydneys, frankly. That's what we need. And we've got it. So we got to figure out, and we've got to get to those folks and say, you're not involved. Why aren't you involved? What can we do to involve you? Where are we missing the boat? That's what the party should be doing, because everybody I'm calling shouldn't be retired. I'm just telling you.
I think it comes down, we do need to grow from the township level again. One of the things there is we're going to have to actively recruit the township level. I know we had this was right when I was getting elected, I guess, back in 2018, long before the pandemic and such, but we had where they had a table for the local township. And I stopped by the table and spent a couple hours with them. Well, everybody was sitting there and having fun and eating hot dogs and stuff like that, but no one engaged the crowd. And so I engaged the crowd. Guess what? We got 5 new people show up to the meeting and took out a membership in the township. And so unless we're actively engaging, and I'm thinking you need to run a township recruitment like you do a campaign, like knock the doors of strong Democrats out of the van, knock their doors and talk to them and say, hey, you know, there's a meeting that you can attend on a monthly basis where your state officials will sit there and chit chat with you. That gets people out the door pretty quick. But, you know, just engage and get people in that are working age, you know, in their 20s, 30s out the door again and participating, because that my generation kind of lost the political bug somehow. There are a scant few of us that actually really got engaged on a patriotic level, and it shows, because now young kids are getting involved, but they don't have any direction, because my generation just sits down with our colored television and crabs about things. And it's a problem because we didn't actually take to the streets. We didn't actually do the work generation before us did. And we got lazy, and now we got to catch up from it. But township level growth is my point.
Well, that is supposed to be where the grassroots starts to happen. You know, there used to be a concept of precinct captains. That's kind of somewhat gone away as well. Okay, I feel that was a challenge to our leadership in this township, Doug.
It's a challenge, townships, and you know what? Tap me. I'm happy to knock doors for you, because it benefits all of us when we grow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is talking. I would like to see your face. I don't see you.
My phone was about to die, so I had to put it on the charger. And
okay, and your name is what? This is Florence Pullen. Your name is what?
I'm Representative Doug Clemens.
Oh, Representative Doug. Okay, Rep. Okay. Thank you for your talk on townships.
He's our
and
minority
will
whip.
Help you anyway.
He's our minority whip as well in the House.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Harvey, I've got a question. Do Creve Coeur and Maryland Heights have any kind of regular citizen Democrat clubs?
Well, that's the township clubs.
That's what this is.
Yeah, that's us.
Okay. So this is not a central committee meeting then?
No, it's not.
Township. Okay, this township club. Okay.
Yeah, it's strictly the township clubs. Yeah, central committee has their meetings on, I forgot which Thursday.
The third Thursday. The third Thursday, and that's at night, Trish, not during the day.
You're welcome to observe that, is my understanding. If you contact your committee people, they can get you the Zoom link, or Dave and Dale, who are our community. Yeah, they can get you the Zoom link.
I was gonna say, if you can get the link, because I chased that thing down one month. It was hard to get. So
well,
I don't know where.
The thing is, we have to let the chair know that you're coming as a guest, because otherwise they don't want other people coming in that aren't, members of the club or Democrats.
That's true.
So they want to know, if you're not a committee person, who you are. So I have to let them know who we're expecting as possible guests. So doing it through one of the committee people is the best way to do it.
And I have had good luck through Dave and Dale. I can't speak to you Creve Coeur folks, but yeah, when I was wanting to go, they were really helpful about passing that along.
And there's one this Thursday if you want to go, Alan.
Okay, and I'd also like to take a moment. Can you guys hear me okay? I know.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wow, this mic has really lost its abilities here. I'm on the redistricting commission for the House, and Nicole Greer is on the redistricting commission for the Senate. We've been having a number of meetings around the state, getting citizen input. And in case you guys want a quick update, Nicole, do you want to talk about the Senate for a minute? I think you guys are a little bit further along than we are because you don't have as many lines to draw as the House.
Yeah, I don't know about further along. I'll just say, so we had some public hearings. I think you all knew about that. I saw some of you all there giving public testimony. So right now, what we're trying to do can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
okay. In our last meeting, we are trying, so there's been some, the Republicans, their chair, slipping a flash drive under the table to us. Here's a map. But our goal is to make this a transparent process. And we're having difficulties with that. And so it was our suggestion that if anybody is submitting a map, that they submit it through the portal. And then it goes to the Office of Administration so that it can be posted. And the Republicans were kind of pushing back on that. I don't know why they didn't want to post their maps. And so then we had some difficulty because they were giving us maps and saying, well, you can post, we can't tell you not to post them. But when you post a map, you have to put your name on it. And so it looks like it's our map, but it's our map that we're posting that they gave us. So I don't know if you've experienced this on the House side, Harvey. So there seems to be some games that are being played. In our last meeting, we talked about a couple different maps. We had a couple different maps that we're going to submit. So if you go out to the Office of Administration website, and I'll try to drop that in the chat here, you should be able to see some maps that were submitted. So that's kind of where we are right now. We don't even have a next meeting scheduled right now. We have a meeting later in December because we have a due date fast approaching. But we're just trying to get them to actually submit some maps because we've heard from the public that people want to see maps. So we're kind of stuck right now. So that's where we are for state Senate districts. Harvey, I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're not so sure what we're doing either. It's a challenge to say the least. The state laws, well, first off, there's 160 some odd House districts and 50 some odd Senate districts. So we have a lot of lines to draw. The Clean Missouri was replaced with a set of rules that say that there's 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats. Names were submitted through the parties and then ultimately selected by the governor. So there's a little bit of bias because the governor, like in my case, there were two people submitted from each congressional district, myself and a woman. The woman is a nationally known attorney with all kinds of great credentials, etc. And then there was me, not that I'm nobody, but if it was a Democratic governor, they would have picked the woman over me because she's clearly more experienced at this kind of stuff than I am. But the governor got to pick, so their team has a lot of political operatives on it, a lot of people who are working for candidates, although you cannot run for office for 4 years if you're on the committee. But there's no restriction that says you can't be a campaign manager or run for or be a paid campaign consultant. And there's a number of those on their side. So we have our hands full in dealing with that. There's been a number of tie votes, and the folks who set up the 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats had no provision in there for how to break a tie. We had votes on how to break a tie that were ties. So it's really quite a contentious process. we'll see what happens. We're hopefully approaching having some meetings on actually seeing what lines we can agree on. The state statute says we have to keep counties intact wherever possible. And there are a number of counties that happen to be one state house representative in the whole county. There's a number of areas where it takes 2 to 3 counties to make one state rep. So those are fairly straightforward, and we're hoping we can at least come to agreement on those pretty soon. And then you get into the more densely populated areas. I always like to give Columbia, Missouri as the example there. Historically, Columbia's been split in 2 so that they could do cracking. You know, there's packing and cracking. Columbia should have more Democratic representation than it has. The new rules say that after county boundaries, you have to honor city boundaries. So in honoring city boundaries, we're going to get back a couple of state reps where there's been some cracking done in the past. After that, it's defined as communities of interest, and I've been kind of pushing that wherever possible, we look at school district lines where we have to cross city boundaries. That we kind of use school districts as maybe another way to group once we've honored city boundaries and we don't have enough people to fill a full state representative district. So in any case, that's where we are. We have to have our work done by mid-December. If we don't have a map that everyone agrees on and it takes 14 of us to agree on a map, who thinks that's going to happen? Then it goes to a panel of judges appointed by the Supreme Court judge of Missouri, the head Supreme Court judge, in which case, hopefully they look at the work that we've all done, the maps that we will submit, and the maps that our cohort, our friends on the other side will submit. And, then they decide, and that's it. Whatever they decide is it. It's done. So, we're going to try to come to agreement, but if we don't, then that's what happens.
Well, let me jump in on this one real quick. So first off, testimony can be given online through the OA office.
Not for the House anymore.
Oh, it's shut down now?
Yeah, we lost that vote. The House committee is keeping their portal open till the end of their work. We lost the vote. The Republicans insisted on shutting it down as soon as our public hearings were over. So it closed on the 12th. It's done. Now anyone that wants to submit can submit directly to any of the commissioners, and then the commissioners can post it on the portal, and that's probably what's going to happen. So.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to submit things to the commissioners directly, and then we will, as a courtesy, turn around and post it.
Well, what I wanted to say about that is testimony can also be in the form of a map. There are mapping tools that you can use as an individual on your computer at home to create a map. They're out there during the redistricting process so that you might come up with a more fair map than the Republicans might, for example. So these things that are submitted into testimony, be that a written testimony or a map and written testimony, are admissible into the judge panel when it goes to the courts. And we wholly expect that this mess will go to the courts, that there's not going to be a solution that comes out where enough folks cross the line and break the party stalemate to actually do something. So when the courts look at all this material, they will look at everything that has been submitted, not just from the commission, but also submitted testimony and submitted maps from regular everyday folks. And we've got, like folks from UMSL and Washington University that have actually submitted detailed maps on these things. So they're out there, and one of those could be picked and used as what we move forward with. And the last thing I just want to say is I just want to whine a little bit and say that maps are normally out like a few months back. and we're putting off the final touches on them by this point. So we probably will not have a map by the time most of us have to file for office. We won't know what district we're really running in.
As crazy as that sounds, that's correct.
How does that work?
Well, the problem is that the census data was so delayed that they couldn't start the commissions, and the commissions by statute have X number of months to get the work done. So from the time that we got the census data to the time that our maps are due, I think it's a 5-month period, and that hasn't changed. So it pushed everything back.
So I guess my question is, in the case of people who are running for office who are filing, what happens if, and this is a potential problem in St. Charles County, what happens if someone files for a particular district and it turns out that they no longer live in that district?
The rule for
Just find a basement to rent in someone's home.
Heyo, but only in St. Charles County, right?
No, the rule, no. We ran into this when the 70th was created a few years back. The rule, my understanding, and anyone that knows better, correct me, is when there are new district lines, you don't have to live in the district to be elected into that district, but you do have to move into the district to be reelected.
Right. That's the way it was the last time.
Oh, so you get one term free.
But I think the General Assembly has to adopt that. I don't think it's a law.
No, it's a law, and that
is it?
I'm pretty sure. But anyway, that was. Go ahead, Doug. Do you know?
Yeah. So you have a year to move into the district if you were not living in the district when elected, because you do have to reside in the district boundaries for 1 year before election. But that is an exception when the maps. So you have a year to move in so that you have that year of leaving the district for a re-election. Now there is also the legal challenge of, the judge said Nick Schroer had intention of representing that district. And that seems like a legal argument to me now, but that's just out there.
Yeah, it's problematic, and I really don't want to see it go that way. And I'm hoping that, we can actually come to agreement on a map. But like I said, the odds of that happening is pretty slim.
I also had heard that the filing date can be moved back. Do any of our state reps know anything about that?
Yes, it is statute that we can move the filing date. The Speaker of the House has made it abundantly clear that he has no intention of forwarding legislation to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, stay tuned. It's messy, and thanks to the previous federal administration for screwing up the census.
Also, I did drop the office administration link in the chat, and if you go onto that website, there is some map drawing software that anybody can use if you are interested in, drawing a map or even just kind of playing around with it just to see how it works or how it looks. You may come up with something real good and submit it to some of us.
Also, I'm not sure where we stand on the federal congressional districts, but those are being decided by the legislature. Would any of our legislators, state legislators, want to comment on that process?
Well, there has been a special committee meeting on that since session ended, and so they have maps. I've not seen anything. The governor made it specifically clear that he didn't want there to be a special session to deal with congressional redistricting. The cynical partisan side of me thinks that's because he wants to be able to use the realm of everything in session to be able to bargain with people, to threaten, to negotiate, to wheel and deal, that kind of thing, which can't happen during special session because special session is so narrowly tailored. So there's not obviously not going to be a special session, so it will be addressed fairly quickly when we get into session in early January. It makes me nervous though, because I think anytime people feel like maybe they need to vote for something or do something in exchange for something else happening, that makes me very anxious.
I understand. Okay, any other topics? If not, and I'll give you a moment to think about any other questions or topics. And then I'm going to ask if anyone has any announcements they would like to make. For those of you who were on at the beginning of the meeting, you saw the holiday party announcement. I will be sending that out. Let's see if I can briefly share the screen on that, if I still have that around. There we go. So there's the holiday party that's coming up. And you'll also be getting an email from the township clubs announcing that as well. I didn't see any RSVP. If anyone knows that there's an RSVP, let me know. This looks like the official invitation. There's no request for RSVP on it.
Right, just show up.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Paula. My iPad is down to 5%, so my video is off. I'm having a fundraiser on Thursday over at the CWA Hall in Grissom. It should be a fun one. I couldn't take another cocktail party, so we're doing a whiskey tasting. We'll have a bunch of food, and then we'll have cornhole games going on one side of the hall. So starts at 5:30. Would love to see anybody who wants to come out.
Cornhole game.
It's bean bags in, like, you toss bean bags in these boards across from each other.
Ah.
It's fun. It's usually an outdoor game, but like I said, I couldn't take just another cocktail party.
Okay, and
Love
that's
to
at
see you
the
out
CWA
there.
Hall.
Yep.
Anyone else have any announcements? Any other questions for anyone on the panel, or any suggestions for future programs? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, everybody. Florence, if you have any closing words?
No, I think we had a very lively discussion this evening, and we'll see you next month.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Take care. Bye-bye.